Tony Ferguson has had an illustrious career. However, recently, the man has just been on a wild losing streak, and a lot of people seem to think he's lost his touch. Ferguson wildly disagrees and recently told the press that he'd retire whenever he wanted, and that he's still a champion. Join us today as we dive through this latest UFC news. First up, what even happened? Tony Ferguson is an eccentric man, a truly interesting fighter to watch. He earned his ticket to the UFC by winning the Ultimate Fighter 13, and since entering the promotion at the time, he went on a 12-win streak. However, since May 2020, those numbers have dwindled significantly, and the man has lost 5 fights straight. Those aren't good numbers, and due to it, a lot of UFC commentators and MMA pundits have begun to write off El Cucuy by saying that he fell off and it may finally be time for him to retire. Tony isn't the best at staying silent when someone calls him out like that, and he's been pretty vocal about it. He talked about how he'll hang up his gloves when he feels like it, and that he isn't ready to retire just yet. He feels that he still has a lot of fight left in him, and that he wants to go on and do great stuff in the organization. He also stated that he's tired of people like these writing him off and spinning the narrative that he's washed up. He believes that these pundits want the public to believe that he's done for, and he isn't ready to take that L just yet. Up next, Tony Ferguson versus Daniel Cormier. Now, hold your horses. No MMA is about to happen. These two aren't heading to the octagon to settle things. However, they have been pretty vocal about each other in recent media. Daniel Cormier is a respected MMA pundit and a commentator in the UFC. He recently talked about how he feels Tony Ferguson should just up and retire already, and that any further losses would just be adding to his embarrassment. Now, we all know Tony wouldn't take too kindly to this criticism, and to be fair, it's one thing to tell someone about their shortcomings and another to tell someone they've gotten so bad that they should just stop. Tony had a lot to say about Daniel Cormier. First off, he went ahead and blasted the former UFC fighter and talked about how he, unlike the former, never cheated to make weight. Here he was calling out the towel incident, when Cormier's team lifted his towel to lose a pound or two and help him make weight. He criticized the UFC management and talked about how they went along with it as if everything was okay. He also talked about how he's not a quitter and won't just abandon his road to redemption just because a few people who think they know better than him tell him to do so. Coming up, what's Tony Ferguson up to nowadays? Well, the last time Tony entered the octagon was at 170 pounds to face off against Nate Diaz. However, the fighter ended up losing the fight due to a 4th-round guillotine choke, and thus his losing streak continued to build up to 5. Now, for some, that may be the end of the line, but not for El Cucuy, as he's made it clear he's a fighter and doesn't stop just because someone tells him to. Tony is taking some time off after the fight and recuperating. The big question seems to be whether he can come back and win the next fight he has in the UFC. It's no hidden truth that if he continues his losing streak, he'll end up not getting any renewals in his contract. Tony has been known to bounce back after defeats. However, this may be his biggest challenge yet. There doesn't seem to be an ounce of quit in the fighter, so we'll probably be treated to a massive win in his upcoming bouts. However, we can't speculate much, considering his recent bouts haven't been going his way much. It'll all have to wait till he fights again, which may be a while considering he needs time to focus his energy on coming up with a way to tap into his inner warrior again and dominate the UFC. Finally, what's next for Tony Ferguson? Well, the big question is, which weight class will Ferguson fight at? He's been in his prime while fighting in the lightweight division, which is where he won the interim belt as well. However, in his last fight, he recently fought Nate Diaz at 170 pounds, a weight class that he hasn't fought in since his rookie years at the UFC. On top of that, Ferguson was also experimenting with different training camps in the lead up to this fight, so his loss might be due to those reasons. We know that we can't count him out for future wins because he's proven time and time again that he has what it takes to win big. Considering in the past, he beat Kevin Lee for the interim title and went on a 12-win fight streak. We know that if he puts his mind to it, he can go on a rampage in the UFC. Still though, some people think it's best if the fighter returns to the lightweight class, a class to which he has grown accustomed and has significant significant wins. Back when he was considered to be in his prime, he was a beast, probably the best in the world at the moment. There wasn't anyone who could step up to him, though in recent years, that warrior spirit he once displayed has dwindled, and fans are left wondering what to expect next. We'll just have to wait and see if Ferguson manages to make a comeback anytime soon. Other news. First up, Bo Nickal versus Khamzat. So the last time we talked about this fight was when Bo Nickal allegedly called out Khamzat via the press and insinuated that if it came down to it, he could probably beat Chimaev. Bo has been tearing it up on Dana White's Contender Series and has drawn a lot of buzz to himself, and it's gotten pundits thinking, could a rookie like Bo Nickal beat Chimaev? Well, we have two sides to the coin. On one hand, we have Henry Cejudo, former double champ in the UFC, who believes that given the opportunity, Nickal could easily overcome Khamzat with his superior wrestling skills, and that it wouldn't just be a win for the rookie, it would be a walk in the park. Now, the double champ is a past UFC champion, so we can't just brush off his words. But then, on the other side of that spectrum, we have Daniel Cormier. Cormier believes that it would be too soon to let the rookie into the octagon with a man of Khamzat's caliber. He believes that Nickal needs to go through developmental fights and build up his repertoire. He doesn't think that throwing him into the deep end straight away will be a good idea, and talked about how, if you're outclassed by your opponent, it's very easy to spot, and that's just embarrassing for anyone. So he believes the rookie should still take some time to further hone his skills. Next up, UFC 284 is coming to Perth. Everyone loves the sport of MMA. If you didn't, you wouldn't have clicked on this video. Well, we're pleased to announce that we're just a week away from the UFC officially announcing the fact that UFC 284 will be coming to Australia. The last time we had an event in Australia was in Melbourne, when Adesanya knocked out national treasure Robert Whittaker for the title. A little while before that, Yoel Romero had knocked out Luke Rockhold for the interim title. However, he wasn't able to get awarded the title as he had missed weight. The Aussies have produced their fair share of UFC legends, the most recent being Robert Whittaker, so we're sure they'll be hoping for redemption in the upcoming UFC event. Well, they won't have to wait long, as the event is coming up on the 10th of February, 2023. Finally, Gaethje thinks he and Usman are in the downhills of their careers? So Kamaru Usman and Justin Gaethje have been in the UFC for a while, especially Usman, who's been at it with combat sports since his high school wrestling days. However, Gaethje believes that the end is near for both the fighters, as he talked about how neither of them wants to continue fighting till they hit 40. Kamaru has had one of the best runs a UFC fighter could have, going on an unbeaten streak for nearly a decade. The man is a beast, and Gaethje thinks that once the trilogy match happens between him and Leon Edwards, Kamaru will come back out on top. He talked about the feeling you get when you're on top of the world after winning a title, and he believes that once he gets back in the rhythm, there will be nothing that can stop him. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think Tony Ferguson can manage a comeback? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you at the next one.